It's Jackson's hole day, and everyone's talking about his beautiful hole as Powell gets ready to speak for the evening, and well, for the evening for me at least over here in the Eastern Hemisphere of this world. But likely to move markets as we'll go over today. A lot of things kind of working on in the background here, and ultimately, yes, there actually is. It is to be expected, you know, a nice move today. Anyways, probably around that time frame, I would suppose. Anyways, other than that, I want to once again welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. No live stream today, actually. In fact, I'm going to be changing up the schedule a little bit. It's going to now be, or it's from now on going to be on Wednesdays instead of Fridays. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for some people to join on in, and it'll also be easier on my schedule as well. Anyways, now that we've gotten through that, now we've gotten through all that rigmarole over here, we can jump right into the charts. We're actually going to start it off on a bit of a different leg today, seeing as it is going to be more of a what's called fundamentally, maybe not fundamentally driven day, but event-driven day. Yeah, that's what I'll say. All right, so first things first, going off over here on NASDAQ, we were looking at NASDAQ as likely entering into a sideways trading range, and what do you know, after the pretty impressive rally that we did see a couple days ago, it coughs it up exactly yesterday, pretty much bearishly engulfing the whole damn thing, and is now back closing near the range lows. Now, I do suspect that this one does continue a little bit lower. If we go over here, we can see that daily RSI is printing a hidden bearish divergence, or you know, did confirm it as of yesterday. And in this case, you know, I do suspect that we see one more run into that blue box territory right here. Could it be into the lower end of it, you know, officially fulfilling the gap coming in from June of this year at about 14,500? Yeah, definitely possible. Just don't want to see any closures below that region. That's at the point where this one very likely does have significantly more to come down to, probably into the upper 13s if I had to guess. But for right now, I'm kind of still looking at the LARP lines as likely relevant. This kind of goes hand in hand with the analysis that I put out, I think it was maybe Monday. Yeah, it was. I think it was Monday at least. For the very, very long-term McClellan oscillator analysis on SPYs. Now, that I still do look at as relevant, meaning that, you know, do we see this market go a little bit lower into September? Maybe. Definitely possible. Definitely possible. But ultimately, I do think that based off the history, based off the probabilities, it's a lot more likely that the market sets in a low, you know, either on this next move or maybe sometime in September. But before October starts, I would be expecting that the low is in essentially, and markets generally kind of drift sideways and up for traditional markets. For Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, that equation is a little bit less well tested. I mean, it only has, you know, about 10 years of history, 13 years of history, whatever it is. And more importantly, it doesn't follow as strong as traditional markets, but it likely does set into the general tone for the next, you know, for the next couple of years here. If you are not familiar with that, with the analysis that I put out on SPY, and, you know, by extension, NASDAQ as well, basically what I'd be looking for is, you know, based off the history, it's not necessarily what I'm looking for, but based off the history, you know, new all-time highs within a year, or very close to that. Anyways, it doesn't need to be significantly new all-time highs, by the way. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes it leads into an even greater Dumbola party. Definitely possible as well, but new all-time highs has happened every time for the past over 20 years now. All right, cool. So yes, traditional markets, I do expect to make another leg down around that Jackson Hole speech, and then do the LARP lines continue to play out here sideways? Perhaps yes. The real question is, if it breaks below 14.5. If it does, yeah, I'm looking much lower, probably into the upper $13,000 territory. Anyways, moving on here, I do want to go over Dixie really quickly. Dixie is, well, it's looking pretty damn good for right now, to be fair. Looking at the weekly time frame right here, is this one actually going to be breaking out? Well, I think to answer that question, we do have to reference the monthly, which the monthly has another six and a half days left to trading basically to go. And as of right now, there is potential hidden bullish divergence. So if it does close basically here or higher, that'll be confirmed. And at that point, probably have to be looking for a move closer to, you know, 105.5, maybe 106, which likely does put downwards pressure on price action, which is why I do say, you know, do we see some lows being printed maybe in September rather than August? Definitely possible. Definitely possible right there. But looking at the weekly right here, the thing is that if Jackson's hole turns out to be bearish, It's like, how does that even work? But if price essentially gets rejected here before the weekly closure, there actually will be a bit of a problem for the Bourgeois, as there would be potential hidden bearish divergence in progress between these few peaks from February of this year, then again in May, and potentially over here in August as well, accordingly with these three lower highs. You can see, let me just mark them off. Boom, boom, and boom. If that happens. But of course, long day left to go. If it closes up here, then that's just not going to be a possibility. And then probably the monthly takes over at that point. But for right now, you can see that this weekly closure, very, 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 very important. If we see a rejection coming into the end of today, good indication that this one does come back down and retest somewhere around 101.5, 101 even in the coming months, and probably going to help out traditional markets. And if it doesn't, then close up here, then coming into next week, the monthly very likely does print that hidden bullish divergence, and next move over the next month probably to the upside, or at least most likely to be to the upside. Anyways, moving on to Bitcoin here. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame. It's the only one where I actually see anything going on right now, and kind of going hand in hand with traditional markets. I do suspect that we see something relatively similar for Bitcoin. Now, it's not printing it right now because it just rallied up about $50, but there will be potential for hidden bearish divergence, a phantom drive right here. It was printing before I started recording on this video. It was coming in from right here, anchored with this point. And that'll be confirmed with any sort of a closure below about 26. At that point, I do expect Bitcoin to retest somewhere around the lows, whether it be 25.5, 25.3 region, something like that, similar to traditional markets. And then the question kind of remains, does it break or not? Does it break? Does it break? Well, to answer that question, I do think it would be best to go over here to, of course, the HPDR indicator. And what do you know? The bottom side of the current 50% range lows is 25,300. So as long as Bitcoin's kind of awesome between this range, I don't really see anything, that interesting, to be honest with you. Could look something like this, where it comes down, then bounces, blah, 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 and then tries an upside move. Something like that is honestly what I do think eventually happens. But because today is Friday and it's a weekly closure for CME, there is that potential for the closure below the last weekly low, which would be below about, let's see what it is on a closing basis here, about 25.7, 25.6, 20. Where is the damn thing? Well, I'm butchering it right now, but about 25.8, it does look like. Just don't want to see a closure below there on the weekly for CME. It's kind of difficult to see. I think maybe it might be best to wait for a spot actually in this case, just more clear. But if that does happen, then that's going to destroy the hash ribbons setup that we went over in the past couple weeks. So again, a lot of moving parts right here, but we would really not expect closures below that region on a weekly closing basis if that relationship is going to hold true. So if you are bullish, then you generally just want to see a quick test to the downside followed by a nice bounce-ola, and Bitcoin popping back into range and doing this. If you start to see 4-hour closures below about 25,300, that's at the point where things start to change around, and next area of interest to the downside would be about $1,000 lower at 24.4, 24.3 region. Yeah, so we've gone through that. We've gone through that. Let's go over here. Let's go check out Stochastic momentum. Again, coming into the end of the weekly closure, the weekly has not really moved at all thus far. Current momentum will remain to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below $30,000. 5-day time frame is also be showing downside momentum below 29.4. So again, still within this next 5, maybe even 10-day spread. There is still more risk to the downside than not, according to the higher term time frames. But the longer that Bitcoin goes sideways here within those next couple periods, the more and more, without breaking below, again, the current low is at 25.3 or so, the more and more likely we're going to see this actually turn into a bit of a bear trap, and Bitcoin put in a nice big move to the upside. Looking at the 2-day time frame, again, getting way down here at 26,750. Let me see what spot's doing right now. And is this one closing tonight? No, it is not. Just closed last night. Current momentum pivot 26,150. Now, I remember yesterday that was above 27,000 bucks. So this has moved down significantly here. Again, it's how do I relate this concept? It's like you're spinning your wheels and you ain't fucking getting nowhere. Momentum's to the downside. Bitcoin had a nice break last week, but no follow through. And so as it, hangs low down here, it will be more and more difficult to maintain that momentum. Again, if Bitcoin really doesn't you know, accelerate to the downside in this next 2-day period, I suspect. This number is going to go even closer to current price action, probably even under current price action. And, you know, as it's already in that critical zone. And at that point, you know, momentum will turn back onto the upside on the 2-day time frame. Daily time frame is also going to be showing, well, it will maintain upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 26,000 basically. What does CME say, by the way? Yeah, basically same number right here. So I expect that now they kind of align with each other. 12-hour time frame going to be showing upside above 25,850. Not super strong right there, by the way. 6-hour time frame going to be showing downside fresh below 26.6. 4-hour time frame going to be showing downside as well below 26.5, and hourly is going to be showing downside below 26.1 if it does close below there on CME. So again, short term, I do expect Bitcoin, you know, tries a bit of a short term move to the downside. The question is, does it actually break anything or not, or does it just bounce, you know, in something like this fashion? I do suspect that this is probably what's going to happen, and if that does happen, that's going to really start to strengthen the case coming into next week that momentum also is going to start to reset, and it's going to switch from probabilities on the bearish side to probabilities on the bullish side, probably in late next week, if I had to guess, is when those are going to start to switch around. But for right now, still, you know, it would be risk to the downside, especially with an event coming in later today. You know, always have to be respectful of that, of course. But yeah, you know, I suspect that, you know, I figured we're going to have clarity on this situation, you know, today. So tomorrow's video should actually be hopefully more interesting. Again, if Bitcoin's kind of holding within this region, well, same old, man. And I'd still give it another, you know, at least 5 days, maybe even up to 10 days to be a little bit on the safer side, but probably somewhere around there for Bulus take back on over if that happens. Of course, if you see Bitcoin break below 25.3, you know, expect another $1,000 move to the downside or so, probably bounce there, and then come back to it and analyze it after that. But that will really start to break some of the higher term time frame analysis. Well, I mean, still have to kind of keep open the eyes for, you know, 22,000 bucks if that does happen. Now, I do want to leave you on one last thing. I would just want to follow up on yesterday's analysis for the daily. You know, this is still continuing over here with the daily jewel showing that green background, which I do think is rather important to be aware of, as we've really only seen this happen a few times. It's not that it happens a few times, just happens a few times a year, basically. Or actually, this is the first time this year, now that I recognize it. The last couple times that we did see it was back over here in June of 2022. Then, of course, May 2022. You know, these were inevitably leading on to continuation of these dumps right here and right here, respectively. But as you can see, things did trade sideways and did get a decent bounce before that. We can even go to this example over here. Again, same thing. You know, same signal. Bitcoin trades sideways and up. And keep in mind, this took a long time. This took a very long time, and Bitcoin retested those lows several times within that. We can go over another one, or where can I even find another one? One before that was coming off of the Rona dump right here. That one was a fucking phenomenal one. Just saying. This one over here, again, same thing. You know, same signal, goes sideways for like a month, and then big move to the upside. Same thing over here, goes sideways for a few weeks, big move to the upside. Yes, does cough it up later, but that was a significant move to the upside. And then, yes, the time before that we did see the same sort of signal was coming off of these lows over here. That was ultimately the low, but it didn't signal exactly on the low, signal very close to the low. Yeah, and well, I mean, I wouldn't have been, personally speaking, long term, I wouldn't have been too mad about buying 3,500, despite it going $400 lower, and then, you know, going to 14,000 bucks just a few short months after that. Personal opinion, but of course, you know, you might have different opinions as well, which is fair enough. And then other than that, you know, we have to go all the way back on over here, but same sort of interplay, basically. I'm really struggling to find an example where it actually just completely dumped on through. So that is why I do still lean towards the overall idea that Bitcoin, you know, it trades sideways here. It might, you know, might come a little bit lower. But that coupled with the long-term SPY analysis does make me think that we've either seen the low, or maybe it prints slightly new lows in September, and then we see the grinding sideways and up, likely. So anyways, I'm gonna end it right there. I want to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and I feel like I forgot an announcement. Fuck! I forgot an announcement. Well, whatever. We'll get to it tomorrow. How about that? All right, sweet. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Saturday.